Good morning. This is Norma Cowie with Once More with Norma Talks. It's Wednesday morning, and I don't know how many of you were ever watching this series, This Is Us, but last night was the final chapter when the matriarch of the family finally dies or leaves us and goes on. And I thought they did it so well. As a person who has done past life regressions, talks about death and dying, I thought they did it very, very well. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to sort of talk about, but I am going to talk about it. I don't want to upset it if you've got it on. But they have her on a train and she's meeting people kind of from her past, different past elements, especially the children in different stages. And she keeps saying, I'm waiting for somebody, I'm waiting for somebody. And what she was waiting for was her daughter, who had been in London and was on a plane to come back. This show I have watched from the very beginning. So you can imagine, and I knew it would be, and even now I feel teary. It's like you losing a good friend, someone you've watched grow, make mistakes, do all the things that life does. And it probably is there's been the odd week that maybe I didn't like that week particularly, but overall and you ever get a chance to see this show, watch it, just watch it. I don't know where it'll go from here, whether they'll have reruns, whether they'll put it on one of the streaming platforms. But This Is Us is exactly like life. Sometimes we win and everything flows. Sometimes we don't win and it doesn't flow. But how do we handle that? And how does a family that is different, because it is different, come together? And how do they sort out their differences? And it was really a good show showing how families work. But as I said, I knew that in the last 3 weeks I've gone through Kleenexes in every session because I knew what was coming and they were wrapping things up with the main characters. And anyway, it makes you think and makes you aware about loss. I've had my mother, father, 2 older sisters, 2 brother-in-laws, some of my nieces, my nephews, and I don't even live in that country anymore. So it's not like I can attend. I did get to my father's funeral. But other than that, it all happens at a distance. So I've been left, you might say, alone to grieve in my own way at these different times. And now, of course, I've lost a daughter. And grieving is an interesting thing. I have a great belief about life after death. I have a great sense of purpose, and I understand about loss, and I help people often let go energies that they're still holding within themselves. So all of that loss that goes on, loss that we have had through space and time. And I find that what do we miss is access to their personality, access to their awareness, the ability to pick up the phone and talk or whatever, even though I know they're busy doing their thing on the other side, even though I know there are times they can come in your dreams. It's still the physicality. Now, I'm going to tie in a lot of what has happened to us in the last few years. Most of us have been in some form of lockdown at different times. Oh, can't go here and can't do this and can't do the other. Even though I've had a very good core of friends that have been there, there's something about restriction. There's something about when you feel that you can't do what you want to do. When we've been raised to be able to come and go as we want, to create what we want, to be who we are as we want to be, even if some of that has not been the best or whatever, we work it out and then have restriction applied. Now, I was thinking about this because I know a lot of children are being raised in this and they're being raised in restriction. And so I'm wondering down the turnpike when they get to be my age, they may not think anything of it. But those of us that were raised with freedom, I mean, I came to this country at the age of 18. Nobody said I couldn't come. I just had to pay the airfare to get in. And the man that I married just after I arrived was waiting for me. Didn't know anybody else in this country at that time. But I had that freedom to come and go. And then I've gone back to New Zealand many times, fairly raised, sometimes a few years in between. But afterwards, I used to go back, within 3 to 5 years. Now I can't go. Now I can't fly. Now I can't do this and I can't do that. And there's an element of restriction. And what happens when people meet the end of their lives and they move on to the next realm? We feel that. We feel that the loss of that person. Dealing with losses is often something we have. We lose money. We lose our friends. They move away. I have friends all over Canada, and as I think I said in one of my talks, I have one friend that phones me quite regularly, and she just did the other day, saying, "Oh, you look so much better than when I last talked to you." I said, "Yes, I'm feeling really good, except that today I'm kind of plugged up again." But yes, we need to be aware and be able to be a unit within ourselves. But we're not isolated beings. Humans from time immemorial have gathered together. I know I've done past life readings for people. I've seen people come together and form little groups, sometimes 10, sometimes 15, sometimes 20. And now we have a tribe. And that tribe would move around and they would find other things. And then the tribes got together and make a city. And so now we have a city, and now we have a movement within the city, and all sorts of things that happen. And when all of a sudden you have a restriction that says you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't do the other. Those of us that are used to freedom, I tell you, it does something to your psyche. It does something that really is not ever happened before. And so consequently, there is a restriction that goes on within. I came to the conclusion a few weeks ago, I think I talked about this, that I was feeling a little depressed. Like I realized, you're not quite yourself. What's going on here? And I realized a lot of it as I wasn't phoning friends. So I have phoned a couple. It's slow but sure. I have been too much within the television box, keeping me company. But all of a sudden there's life. Now I'm going to just say this last Saturday, I did a short 2-hour workshop where I was talking about and leading people through a very basic process of going inside and talking to where we're frozen inside. Now, just to get a little bit of a background this, what I discovered years ago was that we freeze in space and time. This is probably not new. At the time, it hadn't been explained that way to me, but it was like we freeze. And that part of us doesn't know it's growing on up. So just like a knot in a tree, we grow up around it. So we have a knot. I had a lot of these. Usually they're created in trauma, whether it's physical, sexual, or great emotional distress. And so in order, we just kind of, it's like we hibernate inside. It took me, as I learned how to find these for myself, sometimes I would just run energy through and see where there was a little block or where there was things that I would explore the block and then find myself at a different age. Often a lot of I would call I call them inner frozen children, but it could be adults as well. So I spent a lot of years unfreezing these children and growing them up to integrate them with me in the present, which I am a great believer of. And so consequently, in this little workshop, it was only a couple of hours long, people got to see themselves learn how to unfreeze it. And some people ran into pure joy and were really happy. Some people, they worked at it. We had I don't know, 7 or 8 people that attending this. Now, then the second part we went with, first part, and then we asked them to go back to what came before. Now, this is traditionally, and by the way, I have a book on this if you're ever interested in it. You can always let me know. It's called, so it's being able to go back and look at these. It's called connecting to the light, because the light is the transformer. When no matter what you have, when you bring the light inside, and light is love. Light equals love. People always say light and love. Light equals love, or love equals light. But when you see a color, in the color, there's always love. So when you bring that into that, so when you connect to that light, you unfreeze, and then you can grow yourself up to integrate in the present, which makes you stronger to deal and handle with the situations in your life. The universal love force is there for you. The universal love force is for you, will help you transform, deal, complete, whatever it is. And I know I have to thank the years I spent, because there was years, every of a sudden I go, no, why am I doing that? And then I go in and check, excuse me. Then I would go in and check it and find, oh, yeah, I'm frozen there. And you freeze in the emotion of the moment. Now, the other thing I want to say, because some of you may relate to this. Have you ever noticed how the same scenarios keep happening? That you, maybe it's a behavior, maybe it's a scenario that comes in from the outside. When you discover the belief systems that are caught in this little frozen part of you, what you will find, it asserts itself. And this is the strangest thing that people don't realize. If you have a child that's at some time you just thought that the world is against you and nobody cares, in that moment, just in that moment, you've frozen that, you'll keep attracting people that bring up that feeling. You will attract people to say, nobody cares about me, and and usually it goes into then some what we call bottom line feelings, like I'm no good or nobody loves me, et cetera, et cetera. The moment you have that transformed, then what begins to happen? Everything begins to open up. And people, you see people differently. People respond differently to you because you do not have that personal program inside exerting its energy outside, because it does not feel real unless that is happening to it. And that's what very often people miss. They think, oh, well, if I understand it, that's done. No, it's not done until the energy is transformed. Transformed energy is your big key. The more light, the more love you bring inside and grow that lovingness of yourself via the external universal love force, it makes a huge, big difference. It's what gives you all the element to be able to move forward. And I know many changes occurred in my life as I began to unfreeze where I was stuck as a kid, as a teenager, as a 20, 30, or even 40-year-old. What we tend to happen is repeat the pattern. So our childhood is very important if we've had any kind of trauma. Now, I had some traumas I didn't even know I had, but I had them. They eventually came to the surface. I made decisions about myself, not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other. And they all had to get transformed so that I could accept me as me. And it was only then, and some other programming, that I was able to all of a sudden see what I was actually creating in my life and who I really was. So I know this started with letting go. But we need to let go of those false images of ourselves. We need to let go of false images of others. Remember, very often when a person exhibits a behavior we may not approve of or like, that there's pain behind that. So to take the time to find the pain, to relieve the pain. That's one of the things I've really been thankful, because I started off doing this frozen in a child work, and that led to my transformation work, because what I found was excuse me, I'm just going to go warm. My cough came back last night. So my voice is a little froggy again today. Sorry about that. So we'll have a good cough and get it out of the way. Now, this is annoying, but isn't life annoying sometimes when you want to do something especially perfect and all of a sudden something happens and it goes awry and we don't know where on earth, why is it doing this? And For one thing, I always say, don't ever ask a why a question, because it doesn't really answer. It just gives you more content to deal with. But I think my sinuses still are not completely dried out, but which I never have sinus problems. And then all of a sudden they're there. So let us go back to the sense that we are a product of our lives. We're a product of the decisions we make. We're a product of what we're wanting to be, but we can work with all those aspects of ourselves. And it was sitting watching This Is Us, final moment. Nobody shared that with me. That's okay. I'm used to that. But I really realized how many people I don't see anymore. How many people I have not reached out. I own it. I haven't reached out. I think of them, but I don't reach out. And now I'm really determined to do that. I'm really determined. So I'm making a commitment to myself, are you guys who watch this, that I am going to make some phone calls and begin to organize, because we do have a lot more freedom right now than we've had for months, a couple of years, in fact. So I really want to you to know that no matter how you might think you're stuck in a tough spot, that you're in a knowing, you're in a being. You just can check, when did I experience this before? Because life tends to repeat itself. Just as history repeats itself, look at your life. Ask yourself, when was the last time I felt like this? When was the last time I did this, which may be a behavior? Is it something I do repeatedly? If it's something you do repeatedly, somewhere inside, you've got somebody pushing that, because that's their reality. And that's what I was working to talk about earlier, was that frozen aspect of you, that frozen child, or whatever age it is, their decisions that you made when you froze is its reality. And if it doesn't get it, if it doesn't have that reality outside, it pushes until you do. And that's why it seems sometimes you just act, why did I do that? I don't want to do that. No, you didn't want to, but an aspect inside you did, because then it goes, oh yeah, that's familiar. But it may have been familiar from when you were 3 or 10 or 15, not your age. I want you to contemplate that and think about that. Remember, you can always go to my website and write me an email. That would be great. Also, I want to thank you for watching over these last couple of years. I really appreciate that. I also want to say, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. But I always forget to say, remember to click on the bell, because it always tells you when I'm up. I also want to thank everybody who makes a comment. And I have one lady who makes comments on my mental mind treatments in it, and I don't know what language is that, so I'm trying to figure out how I can get, so I can, there has to be a way, which I haven't researched it yet, that I can have it translated so I can see what she says, because I sincerely appreciate it, for sure. And I'm not even sure what language is. I thought it was maybe from South America way, but it doesn't look totally Spanish, so I'm not sure. But anyhow, that's life. More excitement, more things coming, new things and different things. And so we learn and we adapt. And that's another story for another day. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. And we will see you in the future. Sunday, I'll be back. And then followed by Monday, mental mind treatments. Bye now.